The midnight train. It was supposed to be just another late-night trip home. Claire had missed her usual bus and found the train station by chance. The platform was empty, covered in an eerie silence. When the clock struck midnight, a train suddenly appeared, its headlights cutting through the fog. The train looked old, with shiny black metal and golden decorations. The doors slid open without a sound. Claire hesitated but decided to step inside. She was too tired to think twice. Inside, the train was strange but fancy. The seats were covered in red velvet. Small golden lamps lit the space and the walls were carved with detailed designs. As Claire stepped inside, the light began to dim and the air grew heavy. But the passengers were the strangest part. They sat completely still, their faces hidden in shadows even though the light wasn't too dim. Claire picked a seat near the window, trying to shake off the strange feeling. The train jerked forward and the ride began. At first, everything seemed normal, just unusually quiet. The train passed fields and small towns, but soon the view outside started to change. The train stopped in a town that looked stuck in time. The buildings were broken down and the streets were empty. Nobody got on and nobody got off. Claire felt a chill creep up her spine. "Where am I?" she whispered, but no one answered. As the train moved on, Claire noticed something even more unsettling. The passengers, who had been sitting so still, started to turn their heads. They weren't looking out the window. They were looking at her. Their faces were still hidden, like shadows were stuck to them. The next stop was even worse. The train came to a halt in the middle of a forest on fire. Huge flames rose into the air, but there was no heat, no sound of burning wood. Just heavy, unnatural silence. Claire's heart pounded. "This can't be real," she muttered, gripping the seat. She looked around, hoping someone else would react, but the passengers sat quietly, staring straight ahead. Their shadows stretched long and strange across the walls. She tried to find the conductor to ask what was happening, but the driver's cabin was empty. The train seemed to be moving on its own. By the third stop, Claire was shaking. This place wasn't her world anymore. The train stopped at a station floating in a never-ending black sky. The ground below wasn't real. It looked like a giant mirror reflecting stars that didn't belong to any sky she'd ever seen. She felt dizzy, like the air was lighter here. A voice whispered in her ear, soft but chilling. "Next stop, your final destination." She whipped around, but no one was there. The passengers were now standing. Their bodies were changing, growing taller and bending in unnatural ways. Their arms and legs stretched out, twisting like they had no bones. "Let me off!" Claire shouted, her voice trembling, but the train kept moving. The final stop wasn't a station. The train stopped in complete darkness, and the doors slid open. Outside was nothing, just an endless black void. One by one, the passengers stepped off, disappearing into the emptiness. Claire tried to stay in her seat, but something invisible began pulling her toward the door. She screamed, clawing at the seat, but the pull grew stronger. The darkness wrapped around her, swallowing her whole. The next morning, the train station was gone, like it had never been there. Claire was never seen again. No one would ever know the truth about the midnight train that carried its passengers to nowhere.